Hi, I'm Julia Miller.
Hi, and I'm Laura Richardson. And today we're going to be talking about transparency. Ooh, that's a popular topic, right?
Yes, this is one of my favorite subjects to actually talk about because it really breaks down the essence of a relationship in terms of what I feel most single adults want. The reason why people over 40 would take the chance and wanting to dive into marriage again is really because they long for intimacy. But at the bottom of intimacy is it comes out of a place of trust that comes out of a place of vulnerability.
Yeah.
So it really requires transparency on our behalf.
Yeah, and why don't we just try to give us an idea of really what we're talking about transparency. Let's kind of nail it down just a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of confusion about transparency because when I've tried discussing this in groups that I've done, home groups and different things, it seems like when I start to bring up the word of transparency, a lot of women start to just literally melt down, and get very nervous when I start to talk about this. But this isn't a bad thing. This is actually a really good thing. And did you have some things that you wanted to mention about this?
Well, I think maybe we kind of give a definition of it, and then we can kind of springboard from there.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So why don't you kind of tell us what the definition of transparency is?
Well, transparency at the root of it is basically, it's the opposite, in my opinion, of manipulation. It's truth. It's just being very truthful about who you are. And we actually did a little bit of research just to sort of uncover this. And one of the things that we found interesting was from the Huffington Post. It says, radical transparency is a way of relating to your partner in which you reveal your inner self, your true experience. That means exposing your vulnerabilities, your fears, as well as your desires and points of view about whatever issue you're discussing. So I think where people get tripped up on this whole thing is talking about exposing your vulnerabilities and fears.
Yeah.
Because, quite frankly, we don't want to do this with everybody. But I think that if we start out on a small scale of really revealing who we are by expressing ourselves as to what our likes and our dislikes are, then it creates sort of a layer of honesty. We're building a wall, basically, is the way I tend to think of it, is you're in the process of building something. When you're meeting people or meeting someone, even when it's the first time, everybody's a blank slate.
Yeah.
The first time I go on a first date, the first time you go on a first date, that person is blank slate. All I know is what I see, and a lot of times we make judgments about people based on what we're perceiving or what we're seeing. And it's not until we take the time to really start to talk to that person and get to know them better that we start to know more about that person, who they really are at the core of who they are. And this becomes really important because we see a lot of people mixing in different social circles, and what it is after you've seen the same people over and over again over a period of time, now you've started to get a feel for who that person really is at their core. And so here's where it really came to light to me. When I was teaching that class, the Right One class, in a big classroom, we had a bowling night. And one of the girls came and sat down next to me, and I introduced myself, and I said, have you been in the class that we've been teaching? And she said, oh yeah, I've been there. And I said, well, what have you gotten out of it? She said, well, that part that you said that that we really needed to, that soulmates are not something, it's not something that happens to you, it's something that you create. And she said, you know, my parents have been married for over 40 years, and they always told me those stories like you talked about, that someday you're going to meet your Prince Charming and everything will be perfect. And she said, I had always expected this because my parents had a perfect marriage. She goes, I went home and called my mom and I said, what the heck? You know, what the heck? You know, that I just have been taking this class and they told me that, you know, soulmates are not something that just happens. It doesn't just, you know, I'm looking across the room and, that's that person for me. And a dove descends and lands on their shoulder, and yes, it's a sign from God. And I know that this is the person that becoming soulmates with somebody actually requires work, it requires effort, it requires communication, it requires working through disagreements and coming to understandings about things. Well, how does that happen? That happens by people being transparent. And she said, you know what, Julia, in my last marriage, I met this guy, I thought he was really great, and he wanted to go to, I don't know what it was, like he wanted to go to the rodeo. So, my mom had always taught me, just be sweet, be nice, smile. Okay, that sounds like a good idea. Oh, yeah, well, I'm going to the rodeo. Okay, so she's going to the rodeo, she's doing this. Everything he wants to do, she's agreeing with. And, he asks her questions from time to time. So he goes along with whatever she says. Well, after they get married, they realize that she doesn't like rodeos any more than he likes, going to the ballet. But I thought, and so it turns out you're not even married to the person that you thought you were married, you were signing up to love. And so here's where it really became important to me. And jump in.
Well, I was just going to say that I think in a lot of research that I've been doing, one of the things that I find is, you find all these articles, about, what is popular now, or what people like now, or what guys like now, and vice versa. If you read the articles about the women, they tell the guys what women like now in a guy. And I think that helps to bring a layer of pretense, if you will, because they're if you're first meeting somebody, if you've been reading these articles, you're like, oh my gosh, guys don't like whatever, and then and then if that's something that you really feel kind of fits you, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't be her right now because he's going to cut me off right away, because that's not what guys like, that's not what's popular, that's not what the culture says we should be doing. And I think that brings a layer of complication to things, to say the least.
You mean trying to fit the mold of what you think the expectation is? Exactly.
Yeah, and just saying that the culture dictating what you're supposed to be like, or
give me an example.
Well, for example, I saw before, they were like, guys really like a woman who's independent and assertive and whatever, and just really kind of
almost like he doesn't want a girl that's needy.
Exactly.
That's what they're making the point of.
Yeah,
Okay.
And so now women are trying to be more, I guess, at that time, more assertive and more, whatever, to try to fit the mold of whatever the writer said.
And I almost hate those articles because, quite frankly, I mean, just as you and I are completely different. You can tell by looking at us, we're completely different people. You and I could go out someplace and we're probably not going to be attracted to the same guy.
Yeah.
I had two other friends that we used to go out all the time together, and all three of us had completely different tastes.
Yeah.
And the joke was, okay, it's not going to be a problem because we're not going to like the same guy.
Yeah.
And I think the same is true of men. They're not going to like all the same women, or woman, hopefully. A guy is going to pick a woman that complements him, something that he's comfortable with.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it has to do with our upbringing. A lot of times, I was born up north, and in an Italian American kind of culture. So if I run across somebody who reminds me of being up north, somebody, an Italian guy or whatever, I'm going to kind of gravitate to that because I feel like I'm at home again. It doesn't mean that person is the right person for me, but I'm going to feel an instant sort of bond with them, and they're not going to necessarily know why.
Yeah.
And it's not anything they did or they didn't do. It's just a certain comfort level.
Yeah.
So I think that has a lot to do with things.
Yeah, I do. And you had kind of touched on it a minute ago, but really us, like you said, upbringing, like if you had, parents that were a little more traditional, and they said, just go along with the guy, don't argue, don't be assertive,
My mom would say,
him,
why can't you just be sweet? Just go along, just smile, be sweet, and don't act like you have to do everything. Just be. My mom was actually encouraging me to be a little needy because she said men like to feel needed.
or just
now that I'm a little bit older, I see that there's some truth to that. But
and we were discouraged to really kind of tell what our preferences were right at the very beginning, or even later on in the relationship. You know, it was just, you know, crown him, stand him up sort of thing, you know. And so, you know, and so that's, you know, that's what a lot of women are taught as kids, as girls. So
well, and it kind of, I think it depends too what generation you're coming out of. Yeah. But I would say for us, when you're over 40, you've had those things. Here's the other thing that I felt like was passed down through the generations, even though we became career ladies and when we become financially independent and those types of things. But because women weren't, the generation before us was not, it had been handed down through the generations that who you marry is your identity. Who loves you is your identity. And so it was really important, you know, what this choice was, because you're going to be identified by the spouse that you chose and the lifestyle that you have. Like, I know everybody gets mad about the whole, you know, oh, she must be a gold digger. Okay, let's just look at where that came from. That came from the idea that, you know, if you married somebody of social status, somebody who was financially well off, well, then you had a higher social status in society. Yeah. Okay, we don't really have those. That doesn't play into the equation that much anymore, because men and women are we can have the same types of jobs. We can earn the same amount of money in some cases, maybe not exactly even, but we're in a better position than our mothers and our grandmothers were. Yeah. So what was taught through the ages, through the generations, was that to be a little coy, to be a little standoffish, to play the whole hard to get thing. And I do think that men do like the chase. Okay, we're not going to deny the fact that men like the chase. Okay, I'm not talking about that. Yeah. But I don't think that it's completely necessary to be manipulative. In fact, I felt like God convicted me of this a few years ago and said, you know, if you want something or you need something, you come to me. You're not going to manipulate anymore. Not anymore. Because it was so ingrained in me, I didn't know I was even doing it. Let's just say it that way. And so at that point, I made a commitment to myself to be transparent in my relationships. And it's as simple as this. Okay, say we're going on a first date. You and I were talking about this. When you're in those early stage of dating somebody for the first couple of times, there's no commitment. You're just getting to know each other. Yeah. But you're in that early stage of dating, it's okay to say, if somebody says, you know, hey, you know, I think there's a Chinese place down the street. What do you think? Well, you know, Chinese is okay, but I've really been dying to try this Italian place right around the corner. What do you think? Okay, I'm just expressing my preference. Oh, you know, okay, you know, there is a table over there by the bar. Oh, it's kind of noisy. Do you mind if we sit outside? Well, the person that I'm forming a relationship with is finding out what my preferences are. Yeah. They're finding out, oh, okay, she likes to eat outside, even if it is blazing hot. She does like Italian, not so crazy about Chinese, maybe. You know, and because the person wants to know, the person you're trying to be in a relationship with wants to know about you, because you're unique.
Yeah, you're unique. To study you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just part of the chase.
Yeah, exactly. They want to be fascinated. They want to find out what makes this girl unique. What makes her tick? Yeah. How can I please her? Because once he knows what it is that can please you as the woman, well, now he wants to start hitting the button. Okay, you know what? I found an even better Italian restaurant. You know, it's kind of a drive, but I think you're really going to love it, because he's excited about creating something for that woman, that space for her that he thinks is going to please her. And we're both going to be happy because I'm expressing what it is that I really want, and I'm not having to hide behind something. So here's what ends up happening. This is the really beautiful part about this. After I started trying this, and I really was just trying it because I was kind of nervous like anybody else, how this was going to work out, is what I found is that the person I was dating trusted me a lot more. So say we both like each other, but we just don't feel like we're moving in the same direction. I noticed it wasn't difficult for he or I to call one person to call the other and say, you know what, I really like you, but I just don't feel like our lives are moving in the same direction. And you know what, but I wish you well. And it wasn't it wasn't a painful thing. It wasn't them dropping off the planet.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where women get really, really upset, is when a man just goes MIA. When he goes MIA, we go ballistic, because we think, oh, you know, what did I say? What did I do? And it could be that you like each other, but it's just, it's not enough to make a relationship stick. It's not enough to pursue a long-term potential, later down the road, marriage type of relationship. So we don't want to keep wasting time on this. I mean, really, we should know this in the 4 to 6 week time frame.
Yeah.
You should know if you really want to pursue going further with the possibility of an exclusive relationship with this person. So if we already know this, we just want an answer. We just want to, hey, you know what? We want to know that somebody's phone they didn't flush their phone down the toilet and lost your number. We just want to know that, okay, we need to go our separate ways.
Yeah.
And this is the best way to set that up. Not that that's what we want to happen, but here's the better part about transparency, is when we choose to be transparent in a relationship, well, now there's a level of trust. The reason why he can trust me when he's got to say, you know what, I like you, but we've got to go, I don't think we're moving in the same direction, is because he's not afraid you're going to freak out, because he's already had these conversations with you where you disagreed and the world didn't come to an end.
Yeah.
Okay, so now he feels like, okay, I can tell her and it's all going to be okay. She's not going to come over and slip my tires or something crazy like that. You know what I mean? I mean, you and I would not do that, but I mean, there are so
some people put sugar in the tank. Yes, I know.
I don't give them ideas. No, I never heard that one.
Okay.
Wow, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
sugar in the tank? Is that what you said? What does that do?
It totally destroys your engine. It totally destroys your engine. It does. Wait a minute, go ahead, sorry.
Should have known you years ago. No.
Yes.
No, don't
do that.
Don't do this at home.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, my point would be, you're such a bad girl.
I know, I'm bad influence.
No, it's funny. Well, you were a divorce attorney, so you heard all the worst stories, didn't you?
Yeah, well, actually, I've heard that before I became an attorney.
Oh, did you really? That's awesome. Wow.
I did know.
Wow. Anyway, but we're not suggesting these things. No. Remember, God is a God of love, so just think of love.
That's right.
When things don't go right, just think love, and just love and forgiveness.
Yes.
Anyway, so here's the point: is if we're going along and we're expressing our preferences, we're building they're building blocks of trust.
Yeah.
And what people want most out of a relationship is intimacy. Well, how do we get to intimacy? It's by trust. Because when we feel like there's nothing between me and that other person, well, now that's what creates the intimacy, because now you have the closeness. And so honestly, we're going to have a much more intimate relationship when we cross over that line to marriage, and we have an intimate life with this person. We're going to feel very close to them, because we know their preferences, they know our preferences, and we've had these discussions. And if there's something not right, we know that we can discuss it, and we're not going to be facing an explosion. It will just be a discussion.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, I mean, I think, kind of moving forward, I mean, I think even for women, when guys kind of fall off the planet, like you said, I mean, I think that's a major issue as far as transparency is for guys, their challenges, and I think, again, women just kind of get freaked out because, what happened when I do, and so if they were more honest about, what, I don't, like you said, I don't think that, and I think a part of the problem with that too is guys get kind of skittish because, they're the one who started the pursuit, and so they don't really know how to back out of it gracefully and have it be, okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part, a big challenge that I've seen for guys that women experience. So we do.
You mean almost like where they say, okay, I'll call you tomorrow, and they really don't have any intention of calling the girl the next day.
And they don't. Yeah.
And then that kind of leads to the disappointment. Well.
Yeah, what did I do? Or even I've experienced that. I had a guy. Oh yeah, can I see you? Whenever that day was, And then the day before comes and goes, and the day after comes and goes. You're like, okay, well.
Yeah.
You know.
I think,
Wish you the
I
best.
think, yeah, well, I
So,
think that us as
you're
women
right.
tend to take things a little bit more personally.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't necessarily think it's a personal thing. You know, there could be something going on in that person's life that is
Mhm.
beyond the circumstances of what we could understand. And men, I think, tend to be a little more private. I think us as women will throw it all out there on the table and we'll try to make sense of it.
Mhm.
Whereas men, they're going to hold it in because that's what they're accustomed to doing.
Yeah.
And that's really what us as women bring to the table in a relationship with a man is their ability to open up. Because if they feel that they can trust us as women, they'll start to open up because they want a safe place to be able to express themselves. And they're not going to do that very often with other guys. They want a woman to do that with. And maybe they did it with their mother, but that was about it. There was nobody else. Whereas us as women, we have each other.
Mhm.
And so we really become invaluable to them if they feel like that it's a quiet, safe place to land, so to speak.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Even for women, I know we kind of touched about this before in other videos about feeling vulnerable and feeling scared and revealing our fears and our anxieties and things like that, because women, as women, we feel like, oh my gosh, it really makes us vulnerable to abuse or vulnerable to being taken advantage of, and that makes us very, very uncomfortable. And so I think that may be something that kind of stands in the way or gives us pause or hesitation to, you know, kind of open up and be more transparent.
Absolutely. Well, here's the thing, is in order for us to date and for us to date successfully, we have to be healed. So
Yes.
a lot of churches have like a freedom ministry or a healing, inner healing type ministry. Go through that. Get your inner healing. Don't jump out there too quick. If you've been single less than 2 years, take the time to allow God to minister to you and really heal the inner parts of your heart.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what we see a lot is people trying to get out there a little too quick, and I can tell when they haven't been single for very long because of the type of questions that they focus on and that kind of thing. They're focusing on finding something that's wrong with a person as opposed to looking at what's right with them. You can also tell by the way a person talks, what state that they're in, you know, if they're in that victim level state of mind, if they're in a conflict, everything's, you know, anger issues and
just
that
raw.
kind of thing. Yeah, exactly. Kind of just always in this, always having these conflicts with other people. Okay, if they're focused on that, again, probably not a dateable person. They're not a bad person. They're just not dateable at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's when people start to see, okay, yeah, maybe that happened, but I can see, you know, the flip side of it. They start to justify. Now that person is pulling out of that state of mind, and that person at least now is in a dateable frame of mind.
Yeah.
And they have, because honestly, we can't give out of an empty cup.
Right.
If we're draining and we're pulling on people, we're going to suck the life out of somebody, as opposed to once we allow God to heal us and fill up our cup, fill up our love tank. Well, now we're so full, we're ready to pour out on somebody else.
Julia, when you're first meeting somebody, you know, where would you say the line was as far as transparency is concerned? You know, what is a safe place to be transparent?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because this really does come up a lot, and I think this is where the concern is for most of us as women, is how much do I reveal too soon? I would say this first: when we are starting out in a relationship, say we don't even know if we want to have a relationship with this person, but we're starting to date them, going out on the first, second, third date. Keep it very positive, keep it light, just see if you even enjoy hanging out with a person. This isn't really the time to start digging in deep to them, and vice versa. I think we've had a conversation about that, you know, with somebody trying to dig in deep on you, and how that really didn't play out well.
Yeah.
Because they were wanting to know really very personal information about you when you didn't really know them that well. That's not really fair, and I get that question a lot. Well, what if somebody asked me about, you know, my previous marriage? What if they asked me about my ex-boyfriend? Well, you know, why did you break up with, you know, why did your marriage go bad? You know what? it's okay to say, you know what, I don't know you well enough to answer that question. I've heard my best friend say that to somebody before when they were asking her something that I didn't think was real personal, but apparently she thought it was too personal to really reveal. And he kind of backed off. It kind of surprised him, I think. But he also respected her, and it was okay. I mean, they still went on to have a fun evening, but there has to be some boundaries. I don't think that we need to reveal everything up front. I think that in the very early stages of dating somebody, transparency just means expressing our preferences, you know, what we do and what we don't like as those opportunities come up.
Yeah.
But when we get down to things, more intimate details of our life, you really have to be in an exclusive relationship, I think, to start revealing those. You'll know when it's the right time, but I even think that when it comes to our prayer life, the things that we pray about, or us praying together, that's a very deep level of intimacy, because somebody is hearing my innermost thoughts about what I pray about, what I'm concerned about. And we don't really know at that point if this person is a safe person. And I don't know that you totally really know, but it's okay to reveal yourself a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
But I would just encourage us to put our best foot forward, and to the things that we're revealing, to keep it positive, keep it light. And it's in the later stages of relationship that we can maybe discuss some of the things that maybe weren't as pleasant in our relationship, as the person is getting to know us better and we're getting to feel like we can trust them better. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, I think it does. Or even, even if you thought that you want to kind of touch upon or give a more general answer, or, you say, oh, well, you know what, we didn't communicate very well, or, there was an affair, or whatever it is, and just kind of leave it there.
I don't even think it has to be, I don't even think it needs to go that detailed. You know, sometimes people ask me about my relationship and say, how did that happen, And it's as simple as, you know what, I married kind of young. I married my high school sweetheart, and as we got older, we just started, we kind of grew apart. I mean, it wasn't that difficult, or, or maybe my husband took a job out of state, and it was just hard to hold the relationship together. They don't need to know the nitty-gritty details of somebody's relationship, because really it doesn't have a bearing on what you're doing moving forward, if you've gone back and healed that. I mean, it doesn't mean that you can't share it later on at some point, but realistically, I don't want to live in the past. I want to create a future with somebody. And if I'm looking to create a future with somebody, I don't want to be muddling around and digging through the dirt of my past or that other person's past, because then it's like your mind is living that again. I try not to even ask those questions unless it becomes relevant to maybe we've been seeing, now we're in an exclusive relationship and we're out someplace and he has a really bad reaction to something that he obviously triggered him from something of his past. Okay, now we can talk about that. Hey, I'm not sure what happened here, but did this remind you of something? Or what is it that's really bothering you here? And they might go into the detail of something that was from their past.
Yeah.
But
or even the flip side of that. I mean, I've experienced the flip side of that in a very tangible way. I had one gentleman who unfortunately was not healed from his divorce, and it had been 18 years since he'd seen his ex-wife. They didn't have any kids together. I mean, he hadn't heard from seen his ex-wife in 18 years. And if you spoke to him, any length of time, it was just like he walked outside the courthouse yesterday. I mean, it was,
wow,
it
really?
was just so venomous.
So he held on to it.
Yes.
For 18 years?
Yes.
Wow.
And it was so venomous and so bitter, and and that way, I guess you can see, if someone is being too transparent, so to speak, and that way you can see, is this person healed? Is this person, where are they?
Well, that's where we're talking about the lower levels of energy. That's a very much a conflict state of mind. So obviously, when you hear this person talking, like it just happened yesterday, and they're still angry, they're still bitter about the situation.
You see that countenance change.
That's when you start to back out and say, maybe now's not a good time for you.
Yes, yeah.
Maybe now's not a good time for us. I mean, I don't know, but
Yeah.
you back out of that gracefully, and hopefully you pick up on
Mhm.
those vibes before you actually agree to go out on a date with somebody. Because if you know that they've got this underlying grid of anger going on,
Mhm.
then, and I know, when we start out being single, we don't know these things.
Yeah.
It's something that we learn,
Yes.
and
Mhm.
over time as time goes on. But the more you start to detect that the person that has that angry thing going on, or the person that talks like this, I just can't believe it happened to me. I just can't believe my ex-wife, she just took me for everything. I
Yeah.
mean, that. Okay,
Mhm.
okay, that is the lowest level of energy, and it's going to drain you dry.
Yeah.
It's a sympathy sponge, and they are going to drain you until you have nothing left to give. So definitely don't walk, run.
Yes,
You
that's
know,
right. That's
and
what I
just
should
wave
do.
as you're running
Yeah,
out the door.
that's right.
Because
Wow.
the only way to get them past that stage is for them to hit the anger stage. And you don't want to be there for that, because that stage can last a long time.
Mhm.
As you
Yeah,
can see
yeah,
with
he
him,
was- yeah,
18
he was-
years.
yeah.
18 years?
Yes.
18 years?
18
Oh my
years.
God.
I
Okay.
kid you not, and I tell
Was
you
he an
what,
attorney?
unfortunately,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, how did I